Welcome to Fiction Flux. Today we are starting a brand new fanfic. What if Female Deku had a massive harem? Let's not waste any time and get started. Nobody warned them. That was the thing nobody talked about afterward. When people looked back at how it all started, how the strongest heroes in Japan ended up orbiting one girl like planets around a sun they hadn't chosen and couldn't explain, nobody could point to a warning. No dramatic moment. No single day where someone looked up and said this is going to change everything. It just happened. Quietly, completely, the way the most irreversible things always happen. And by the time any of them understood what was occurring, it was already too late to pretend it wasn't. Izuku Midoriya had no idea. That was the most devastating part of all. She genuinely, completely, with her whole heart, had absolutely no idea. She was too busy trying not to die. Let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning of the year that changed everything. Back to the morning Izuku Midoriya walked into UA's third-year orientation with 27 notebooks, ink permanently staining 2 fingers on her right hand, a green ponytail that she had given up trying to tame at approximately age 16, and the specific energy of someone who had already been awake for 3 hours and had thoughts about everything. She was 17, she was brilliant, she was kind in a way that cost her things she never noticed losing. And she was, by every observable metric, completely oblivious to the effect she had on people. Not oblivious in the performed way, not the deliberately unaware protagonist of a story who secretly knows exactly what they're doing. Genuinely, architecturally, foundationally oblivious. She looked at people and saw their potential and their struggles and their history and their technique breakdowns, and she wrote all of it down with real affection and complete analytical clarity, and she never once looked at the same people and noticed the way they looked back at her. The way they always looked back at her. It had been building since first year. She knew that now, looking at it. But at 17, in the third-year orientation room, she sat down next to Uraraka and opened notebook 27 and started writing notes about the updated curriculum structure before the teacher finished the first sentence. And she had no idea that 6 people in that room had spent some portion of the summer thinking about her specifically. She had absolutely no idea. Uraraka knew. Uraraka had known since second year. She had the specific knowledge of a best friend who had watched something develop from close range, while the person at the center of it remained completely unaware, which was simultaneously endearing and maddening, and had become, over time, a source of affectionate exasperation that Ochaco managed mostly by talking to Tsuyu about it on the phone every 2 weeks. She analyzed Todoroki's combat data for 3 hours as a gift, Ochaco had said, the most recent time. Rebit, Tsuyu had said. She gave it to him in a notebook. She made him a notebook about himself because she thought it would help him grow. What did he do? He read the whole thing in one sitting, and then he stood outside her door for 45 minutes trying to figure out what to say, and then he slid a thank you note under it and left. A pause, ribbit. She thought it was a very polite response to a training gift. And what was it actually? Tsuyu, Ochaco had said with great feeling. He handwrote a thank you note. Shoto Todoroki handwrote a note and slid it under her door. A ribbit. That's what I said. This was the context in which Izuku Midoriya began her third year. The first week was standard. Classes, training updates, the usual recalibration after summer break. She was focused. She was always focused. One for All was at a level that required new training approaches, and she had 3 pages of notes on those approaches, and she wanted to discuss them with Aizawa, and she had 14 things she needed to do, and she moved through the week with the specific purposeful efficiency of someone whose internal to-do list was organized by both priority and time sensitivity. She did not notice that Todoroki had reorganized his training schedule to overlap with hers at the specific time she usually used the gym. She did not notice that Bakugo, who had approximately never altered his training schedule for any external reason in his entire life, had also somehow begun appearing in the gym at the same time. She did not notice these things because when she arrived at the gym at her scheduled time, she immediately put on her headphones and started training, and the only thing she was thinking about was the refinement of her air pressure technique and whether she could improve the trajectory by adjusting her shoulder angle by 3 degrees. She noticed on the 4th day that Todoroki and Bakugo were both there. She noticed because they were arguing. Not loudly. They had evolved past loud arguments sometime in second year into something more dangerous, the low, precise, intensely controlled disagreement of 2 people who respected each other enough to be genuinely hostile about it. She took her headphones off. Not the point, Todoroki was saying. No, your whole thing is not the point, Bakugo said. The point is efficiency of the space, and you are. Good morning, Izumi said. Both of them stopped. Both of them turned. Both of them had expressions that she catalogued as unusual without being able to explain why. Todoroki had the look of someone who had been doing something and had been caught not doing it. Bakugo had the look of someone who refused to have that look and was substituting it with aggression. You're both here early, she said. Adjusted my schedule, Todoroki said. Felt like it, Bakugo said simultaneously. She nodded. This seemed like reasonable information. She put her headphones back on. Behind her, Todoroki and Bakugo looked at each other. The look communicated several things without any of them being said. It communicated, this is not over. It communicated, I am aware of what you are doing. It communicated, we will discuss this later in the way that they discussed things, which was with the specific taught civility of people who had chosen to channel their considerable competitive energy toward improvement rather than destruction, and were both aware it could tip the other direction at any moment. It also communicated, in the specific language of two people who both knew something they were not saying, something else entirely. She had no idea. She was already running drills. The new addition to the class dynamic happened on a Tuesday in October. His name was Shindu Yo, transfer student, provisional license from another prefecture, the kind of confident, easy presence that settled into a room like it had always been there. She met him in the hallway outside the classroom. He was looking at a campus map with the expression of someone who was not lost, but was performing being lost as a social strategy. She noticed the map. You're looking for the support department, she said. He looked up. How? The map is folded to that section, she said, and you've got a support item on your left wrist that's one generation behind the current issue, which means you're comfortable with what you have but curious about what's available. Support department is building C, 3rd floor, turn left out of the elevator. He stared at her. Also, the transfer paperwork has a class placement sticker on the outside of your folder, she said. You're in 3A, that's my class, I'm Midoriya. She put her hand out. He shook it. He had the expression of someone recalibrating. Shindu, he said. Your quirk is vibration-based, she said. Ground type or general application. General I can, he stopped. How do you know my quirk? Your stance, she said. You stand like someone who processes force through their feet first. Ground contact dominant, and the support item is dampening calibrated. She was already opening notebook 27. I've been interested in vibration-type applications for about 8 months. Do you mind if I ask you some questions later? Not now, I have class, but at lunch if you're free. She walked into the classroom. He stood in the hallway. He stood there for about 10 seconds. Then he walked in after her and sat 2 seats away and spent the first 30 minutes of class looking at the back of her head while she took notes with the specific intensity of someone for whom information was a physical need. Uraraka watched this happen. She watched the exact moment it happened. She had developed, over 2 years of proximity to this phenomenon, a very precise ability to identify the exact second someone first really looked at Izuku Midoriya. She sent Tsuyu a text that said, "New transfer student, give him 2 weeks." Tsuyu replied, "Ribbit." The lunch conversation happened. She had her notebook. She asked Shindu 34 questions over 40 minutes. She was focused and precise and genuinely, completely interested in every answer. She interrupted twice to write something down and apologized for both interruptions without looking up from the page. Shindu answered all 34 questions. He would have answered 340. He told this to his previous classmates in a phone call that evening. One of them said, "Sounds intense." Another said, "Sounds exhausting." A third one said, "Sounds like you're done." He didn't argue with the third one. Izumi went home and wrote her notes up into a clean format and thought about vibration-type applications for an hour and went to sleep and woke up with 2 new ideas and wrote them in the margin of notebook 27. She thought, briefly, that Shindu seemed like a good training partner. She did not think anything else about it. This was the problem. The thing about Izuku Midoriya was that she gave people her complete attention. Not the performed complete attention of someone who had learned that looking like you were listening was socially valuable, the actual thing. When you talked to her about something real, she was entirely there. She asked the questions that proved she had heard every word. She remembered the details. She connected them to other things and reflected them back to you in a way that made the thing you had said feel more true than it had before you said it. Most people spent their entire lives not being heard like that. Most people encountered it once and could not stop thinking about it. She did it to everyone. That was what none of them understood. It was not special treatment. It was not a strategy. It was not something she had learned would be effective. It was simply how she was. It was the same quality that had filled 27 notebooks, the genuine, insatiable interest in how things worked and why people were the way they were, applied to training technique, applied to villain analysis, applied to people. She had no idea it was remarkable. She had no idea because to her it was just paying attention, just what you did. Uraraka had tried to explain this to her in second year. Izumi, she had said, do you know why people like talking to you? Because I'm interested in what they're saying, Izumi had said, confused. Yes, Ochaco said, but do you know how rare that is? Izumi had looked at her. Is it? Izumi. I mean, everyone should be interested in other people, she said. There's so much to learn from. Izumi. What? Ochaco had put her face in her hands. The thing she had not been able to explain and had eventually stopped trying to explain was that Izumi's lack of awareness was not a flaw. It was not something to fix. It was the same quality as the attention itself. The attention was real because she was genuinely not thinking about its effect. The moment she became aware of it and started managing it, it would become something different, something lesser. So she had stopped trying to tell her, and she had started, instead, trying to help manage the consequences. The consequences were becoming significant. The situation fully clarified for Ochaco on the afternoon of the joint training session with Class 3B. It was a standard exercise, team-based, mixed class allocation, so 3A and 3B students were paired together, standard capture the flag framework. Izumi was placed on a team with Todoroki, Bakugo, Shindu, and a 3B student named Kendo Itsuka who had crossed paths with Izumi during the first year festival, and had, Ochaco knew from subsequent observation, thought about that crossing path quite consistently since. Ochaco was on the observation deck. She watched the exercise. What happened in the exercise was technically a very clean tactical victory by Izumi's team. What happened in the exercise from an observational standpoint was considerably more interesting. Izumi ran the team. Not officially, there was no designated leader for the exercise. She did it the way she always did it, which was by knowing everyone's capabilities with an accuracy that exceeded their own self-knowledge, and suggesting applications of those capabilities with such specific and clearly correct reasoning that nobody questioned it. She moved between team positions, communicated constantly, adapted the strategy in real time as the opposing team's approach became clear. She told Todoroki exactly where to place his ice barrier and why, with the kind of tactical specificity that made it feel like she had already run the scenario 3 times in her head. He placed it exactly where she said. He also watched her the entire time she was explaining it with an expression that Ochaco had catalogued and filed and would not be describing to Izumi under any circumstances. She told Bakugo the optimal trajectory for his support role in terms of explosive range that would complement rather than disrupt Shindu's vibration output. He executed it without arguing, which was itself a kind of landmark. He also watched her walk away after the explanation with an expression Ochaco had also catalogued. She spent 4 minutes explaining to Shindu a technique combination she had thought of at 2 in the morning based on their lunch conversation. He tried it. It worked better than his standard approach. His expression when it worked, and when he looked at her immediately afterward to share the moment of it working, was not an expression about vibration techniques. Kendo Itsuka had not interacted with Izumi beyond one team briefing at the start of the exercise. Ochaco watched the briefing happen from the observation deck and watched Kendo's face during it and thought, 2 weeks on the outside. Izumi's team won. Izumi filed a detailed exercise debrief on the way back to the changing rooms. In her notebook, while walking. She had developed the ability to write in her notebook while walking in first year, and it had not slowed down since. She did not notice what Ochaco had noticed. She never noticed. Ochaco went to Tsuyu that evening, not a phone call, in person, which meant it was serious. Okay, she said, it's 5. Tsuyu looked at her with her large, calm eyes. Ribbit. Minimum 5, Ochaco said. Probably 6. Kendo Itsuka was looking at her like that during the briefing and they had been in the same space for 11 minutes. 11 minutes, Tsuyu said. 11 minutes, Ochaco confirmed. That's a new record. What is Izumi doing about it? Ochaco looked at her. She wrote 7 pages of training notes tonight, she said. About the exercise. She sent me 3 pages about Bakugo's trajectory improvement with a note that said he's really grown this year. Isn't that nice? Tsuyu was quiet for a moment. Ribbit, she said. That's what I said. The problem, if it was a problem, which Ochaco had not entirely decided, was not the number. It was the dynamic, because what she had observed over 2 years was not a group of people competing for Izumi's attention in the way that implied conflict and drama and the kind of zero-sum tension that made situations combustible. It was something stranger and more specific. They were all, independently, choosing to be better. Todoroki was working on emotional expression in ways he had not before, not the enormous structural work of his family history, which was its own separate ongoing thing, but smaller, everyday things, saying what he meant more directly, showing up for things he would previously have let pass in silence. She had watched him decide 3 weeks into the year to actually answer when someone asked him how he was, rather than the default non-answer he had been giving since she had known him. He still gave the non-answer to most people, not to Izumi. Bakugo was working on, and she would never say this to his face because he would consider it a fighting offense consideration. Not softness, not any diminishment of the competitive edge that was his most defining quality, but the specific awareness of other people's positions that was required to be the kind of hero he had told Izumi he wanted to be. Once, in a conversation she had with him late in second year that Ochaco had not been present for, but had heard referenced twice since. Shindu had been at UA for 3 weeks, and had already restructured his entire training approach based on 2 lunch conversations. Kendo had sent a message requesting training advice. And all of them, in their separate and independent ways, were showing up better because she existed in their lives and had made them feel, specifically, that they were people worth understanding completely. She was doing it without trying. She was doing it with notebooks. The confrontation, and it was less of a confrontation than a reckoning, less explosive than absurd, happened on a Thursday afternoon. She had invited 3 people to train at the same time. She had done it efficiently, by sending messages to everyone whose training schedules she had been analyzing with improvement notes, and she had scheduled Todoroki and Bakugo and Shindu for the same afternoon time slot, because she had determined that a 3-person combined exercise would be optimal for the specific techniques she wanted to test. This was a logistically sound decision. It was also a decision that Todoroki, Bakugo, and Shindu each interpreted entirely differently before arriving. She was already in the gym when they came in, separately, Todoroki first, then Shindu, then Bakugo, who arrived exactly on time and assessed the room in approximately 1 second. Izumi was doing stretches and writing in her notebook simultaneously, which was a skill that she alone in the school had developed. "You're all here," she said without looking up. "Good. I've been thinking about a combined exercise that uses all 3 of your quirk types in a rotation that I think could improve adaptive response for each of you. I have diagrams." She held up the notebook. A silence in the room. "Diagrams," Bakugo said. 3 pages, she confirmed. She finally looked up. She looked at all 3 of them. Then she looked more carefully because there was something in the room she couldn't quite read. "Is something wrong?" "No," said Todoroki. "No," said Shindu. "Why would something be wrong?" said Bakugo, in the specific tone he used when he was refusing to have a feeling about something. She looked at them for another moment. She looked at them with the full analytical attention she brought to everything, and she thought, they seemed tense. She filed that under training nerves and turned back to her notebook. "Okay," she said, "let's start with the rotation. Todoroki, I want you on the left barrier position because your thermal range complements Shindu's vibration radius at Midoriya," Bakugo said. "Approximately 40 meters, which gives us Midoriya." She looked up. Bakugo was looking at her. He had the expression he had when he was about to say something he had decided to say regardless of consequences, which was an expression she had learned to pay attention to. "I'm here," he said, "because I wanted to be here, not because the training notes were good. The training notes were good, but that's not why." Silent. She looked at him, she processed this. She looked at Todoroki, who had the expression of someone who had decided to let someone else go first, and was now reassessing that decision. She looked at Shindu, who looked like someone watching a situation develop that he had not anticipated, and was now fully invested in. She said. "You," Bakugo confirmed. "I don't," she started. "Yes, you do," he said, not unkindly, in the specific tone of someone who had decided that honesty was the most efficient path. "You know everything about everyone in this school. You notice things that nobody else notices. You're telling me you haven't noticed this." She opened her mouth. She closed it. She looked at her notebook. She looked at the 3 pages of diagrams. She looked at the rotation schedule and the quirk compatibility analysis and the improvement metrics she had been building since. She did a rapid internal calculation since September. She had been building improved training scenarios around specific people for 3 months. She had 32 pages of notes on Todoroki's development specifically. She had 17 pages on Bakugo's trajectory. She had 14 pages on Shindu, and he had been here for 3 weeks. She thought about Kendo's message. She thought about the note slid under her door. She thought about the adjusted training schedules and the lunch conversations and the specific way certain people in her life had started appearing in contexts that she had always framed as coincidence. She sat down on the gym floor. Not dramatically, she just sat down because her legs had made a decision without consulting her. She sat on the gym floor and she looked at the 3 pages of diagrams and she said, very quietly, "Oh." Bakugo looked at Todoroki. Todoroki looked at Shindu. Shindu looked at the girl sitting on the gym floor, having what appeared to be a realization of significant personal magnitude. "Oh," she said again. "Yeah," Bakugo said. "I wrote 32 pages, she said. "I know," said Todoroki. "About your dual-type temperature application," she said. "Yes," he said. "Because it's genuinely fascinating," she said. "I know," he said. "But also," she said slowly, feeling her way through it the way she felt her way through a new technique, carefully, checking each step before committing to the next, "because I wanted to understand you specifically." Todoroki said nothing, but the mismatched eyes did something she could have written 4 more pages about. She looked at Bakugo, "And I've been tracking your development since first year," she said. "Not because you're in my class, because," she stopped. She looked at the notebook, "because watching you become who you're trying to be is the most interesting thing I've ever watched." Bakugo made a sound that was not quite a word. His expression was the expression of someone who had been told an exact true thing and had not been prepared for how it would feel. She looked at Shindu, "And you have been here for 3 weeks, she said, "and I already have 14 pages. "I know," Shindu said, "I watched you write them." "That should probably have told me something," she said. "Probably," he agreed. She sat on the gym floor. The gym was quiet. She thought about all of it. She thought about every notebook and every training session and every lunch conversation and every adjusted schedule she had not questioned and every note she had not examined beyond its surface. She thought about what Ochaco had said in 2nd year and the face she had made when Izumi hadn't understood and the face she had made when Izumi still hadn't understood and every subsequent conversation in which she had carefully not brought it up again. She thought about the specific feeling she had when certain people showed up in her life. The feeling she had always framed as being glad to see a friend, and now, sitting on the gym floor with 3 people looking at her, and the entire structure of her own obliviousness visible to her for the first time, was recognizing as something she did not currently have the vocabulary for, but was not actually nothing. It was not nothing. It had never been nothing. "I need," she said, "to think about this." "Okay," said Todoroki. "Reasonable," said Shindu. "Obviously," said Bakugo. "I still want to do the training exercise," she said, "because the rotation is genuinely good and the diagrams took time and I think it will help all 3 of you." A pause. "Okay," said Todoroki. "Sure," said Shindu. Bakugo looked at the ceiling. He looked at it for a long time. "Yeah, fine," he said. "Let's see the diagrams." She stood up. She handed each of them their section of the diagram. She began explaining the rotation with the same focused precision she always brought to explanation. But this time, for the first time, she was also aware of the room. She was aware of all 3 of them paying attention to her in the way she now understood they paid attention to her. She was aware of the specific quality of it, not uncomfortable, not unwelcome, something she had no previous framework for and was now building one in real time. She was aware that she was aware. It was, she thought, going to take more than 3 pages to work through. She opened a new section of Notebook 27. She wrote at the top, "Things I should have understood sooner." She underlined it twice. She looked up at the 3 of them, ready and waiting, and she felt something that was warm and complicated and larger than anything she had words for yet, and she thought, "I am going to figure out what this is. I am going to analyze it completely. I am going to understand every part of it." And then she thought, more quietly, in the part of herself that didn't speak in analytical terms, "I think I already know." She cleared her throat. "Okay," she said, from the top. The training was excellent. And afterward, for the first time in her life, she noticed how they all stayed until she left. She noticed. She did not write it in the notebook. Some things she was learning, you held instead. She walked back to the dorms in the evening light with her notebook under her arm and the city going gold around her, and the distinct, unprecedented, entirely new feeling of someone who has just discovered a room in a house they have lived in their whole life. Somewhere behind her, Uraraka was watching from the window. She sent Tsuyu one text. It said she knows. Tsuyu replied, "Ribbit." Ochaco smiled. She turned back to the room. There was so much ahead. For all of them. She didn't sleep that night. Not because she was upset, not because she was afraid. She lay on her back in her dorm room with the ceiling above her and notebook 27 open on her chest, and she stared at nothing and she thought. She thought the way she always thought, completely, exhaustively, from every angle, refusing to let a single corner of the thing go unexamined. She had applied this method to villain analysis. She had applied it to quirk theory. She had applied it to UA's curriculum structure when she was 15 and couldn't sleep because she kept finding inefficiencies. She had never applied it to herself. That was the thing she kept returning to. She had 27 notebooks about the external world, the people in it, the powers that moved through it, the mechanics of how things worked and why and what could be improved. 27 notebooks and not a single page, not one margin note, not one late-night scribble about what she felt. She had noticed everyone else's interior landscape with meticulous precision and had somehow completely skipped her own. She sat up. She turned to the new section she had started in the gym. Things I should have understood sooner. She stared at the heading. Then she started writing. Not analytically, not with the clean structural efficiency she brought to technique breakdowns. She wrote the way you write at 2 in the morning when the distance between your brain and your feelings collapses and the only thing left is honesty. She wrote about Todoroki first. She wrote about the way she had noticed, from the very first day of first year, that he was someone operating at significant internal cost. The way his power was enormous, and his presence was enormous, and underneath both of those things was a person who had been taught that the person underneath didn't matter. She wrote about the specific satisfaction she felt every time she saw him choose something, any small thing, a food preference expressed, an opinion offered, a moment of genuine reaction allowed through the controlled surface, because every choice he made freely was a choice the system that had built him had not won. She wrote, I wanted him to be free of it. I wanted that from the first week. I thought that was just caring about someone's well-being. She wrote, I think it might be more specific than that. She wrote about Bakugo. This took longer. There was more history with Bakugo, more layers. The history of being the person he had used as a measure of his own worth for years, first by putting her down, and then gradually, with enormous difficulty and genuine cost, by letting her stand up. She had watched him make that journey. She had understood it from the outside, because she had always understood people from the outside, had known the mechanism of his cruelty and the wound underneath it, and had never stopped believing that the wound could heal. He had healed it not completely, not without scars, but he had done the work. She wrote, watching someone become who they were always supposed to be is the most remarkable thing I have ever witnessed. She wrote, I don't think I watch everyone the way I watch him. She stared at that sentence for a long time. She wrote about Shindu. 3 weeks, she had 14 pages on him in 3 weeks. She thought about what that meant, she who had never produced 14 pages on anything in 3 weeks that wasn't a systematic analysis of something she was deeply, personally invested in. She thought about the lunch conversation and the 34 questions, and the way he had answered every single one with complete willingness, not humoring her, but genuinely meeting her there in the space of the question, finding the answer and handing it to her like something he was glad she had asked for. She had not had a conversation like that since Uraraka, since Aizawa. She wrote, he makes me feel like asking questions is not too much. She wrote, I have always felt like asking questions was too much. She looked at that sentence for a very long time. Then she wrote about Ochaco. This was different, older, the foundation that everything else was built on, the friendship that had started in their first year when Ochaco had looked at her before the entrance exam, and smiled the specific smile of someone who had decided to be kind without any calculation behind it, and Izumi had felt something in her chest that she had never felt from a stranger before. Sane, just immediately, completely sane. She had spent 6 years with Ochaco, and she wrote about her the way you write about the person who knows you best, not with analysis, with something closer to gratitude, except gratitude wasn't the right word because gratitude implied debt and this didn't feel like debt, it felt like home. She wrote, I think some people are just home. She wrote about Tsuyu. She wrote about Kendo, who she had barely interacted with and who had nevertheless left an impression she had not examined until now and which was, on examination, more present than she had acknowledged. She wrote about 3 other people in her life whose names she had not consciously connected to this subject before, and who, now that she was examining it honestly, belonged in the same category. She wrote for 4 hours. At 6 in the morning, she put the pen down. She had 12 pages. First 12 pages in 27 notebooks about herself. She read them from the beginning. She read them with the same attention she would bring to anyone else's situation, fairly, without flinching from the uncomfortable parts, without the self-protective instinct to close the notebook at the line that was too honest. She read the whole thing. Then she closed the notebook. She looked at the ceiling. She thought, I am in significant trouble. And then, unexpectedly, completely, she started to laugh. Not the performative laugh, not the nervous laugh she used when situations exceeded her processing capacity. The real thing, the laugh that meant something was actually funny, that the situation had achieved a level of absurdity that her body needed to acknowledge physically. She had spent her entire life understanding everyone else, and had somehow managed to miss all of this about herself. She laughed until her eyes watered. Then she got up, washed her face, put her hair up, picked up notebook 27, and went to find Ochaco. Ochaco opened her door at 6:15 in the morning, and looked at Izumi and looked at the notebook and looked at Izumi's expression, which was new, which was not the usual focused analytical ready-to-learn expression, but something rawer and more present and slightly pink around the eyes, and she opened the door wider without saying a word. They sat on Ochaco's floor. Izumi put the notebook between them. I have 12 pages, she said. Ochaco looked at the notebook. She looked at Izumi. Did you sleep? No. Okay, she picked up the notebook. She read it. Izumi watched her read it, watched the expressions move across her face, the recognition and the soft understanding, and 2 moments where she pressed her lips together and looked at the ceiling and came back, and she waited. Ochaco finished. She put the notebook down. Izumi, she said. I know, Izumi said. How did you not? I know. 32 pages about Todoroki's. Ochaco. Sorry, she took a breath. Okay, so you know now. I know now, Izumi confirmed. What are you going to do? Izumi had been thinking about this for 4 hours. She had several frameworks developing. She had not been able to completely turn off the analytical part of her brain. It was not possible to completely turn it off, but she had been trying to hold it alongside the other parts rather than letting it run the whole show. I don't know what's right, she said honestly. I know what I feel. I wrote 12 pages about what I feel, but feeling things and knowing what to do with them are different, Ochaco said. Very different. Izumi looked at her hands. And I don't want to do this wrong. I don't want to. She stopped. She found the sentence. These people matter to me, each of them individually, specifically. I don't want to handle this in a way that reduces any of them to a role in my story. Ochaco looked at her for a long time. You know, she said, most people, when they find out multiple people like them, their first thought is about themselves. That seems like the wrong first thought, Izumi said. Yes, Ochaco said softly, it does. She paused. Izumi, can I say something? Always. The reason, Ochaco said carefully, that all of this has happened, the reason these people are the way they are about you, is not because you're the strongest. It's not because of One for All. It's not because of your ranking or your reputation or any of the things that could be measured. She gestured at the notebook. It's because you wrote 32 pages about someone's development because you cared about who they were becoming, because you notice things about people that they don't notice about themselves. Because you show up every time completely for everyone. She paused. The only question that matters is what you want, not what's the correct strategy, not what's fair or logical or organized. What do you actually want? Izumi was quiet. She thought about the gym floor. She thought about the specific feeling of sitting there with the diagrams in her lap, and the room full of people looking at her, and the warmth that had moved through her, that she had spent 3 months not namming. She thought about the 12 pages. I want, she said slowly, to not lose any of it. Ochaco waited. I want to not have to choose between people who are each separately important to me in ways that are not interchangeable. I want, she stopped. She found it. I want the thing I already have. I just want to know what I'm calling it. Silent. That's the most Izuku Midoriya thing you've ever said, Ochaco said. Is it bad? No, Ochaco said, and she was smiling, the real one, the one that reached her eyes completely. It's very you, and honestly, she shrugged, it might just be true. Izumi looked at her. You've had this, Ochaco said. You've had all of it. These people have been in your orbit and you've been in theirs, and something real has been building in all directions and nobody has been hurt by it. Nobody has been competing in the way that makes people cruel. Nobody has been diminished. She paused. Maybe the reason it's been okay is because you are the way you are, because you actually care about all of them, because you're not taking from anyone. She tilted her head. Maybe that's not a problem to solve. Izumi thought about that for a long time. She picked up notebook 27. She turned to page 13 of her new section. She wrote, maybe it is not a problem. She stared at that. She wrote, maybe it is just what it is. She underlined it. She closed the notebook. I have to talk to them, she said. Separately, Ochaco said firmly. Obviously separately, Izumi said. I'm not, she paused. Actually, is there a protocol for this? Because I've never. There is no protocol, Ochaco said. You're on your own. I love you and I'm here, but you're entirely on your own. That's terrifying, Izumi said. Welcome to feelings, Ochaco said. She went to Todoroki first. Not strategically, not because she had ranked them in order of priority. She went to him first because when she left Ochaco's room and stood in the hallway in the early morning quiet, he was already there, standing at the end of the corridor. He had a cup of something warm in each hand and he looked at her, and she looked at him, and she understood that he had also not slept. I made tea, he said. Yours is the left one. She took the left one. They went to the roof. The sky was doing the same complicated thing it had been doing when she first became number one, layers of gold and grey, the morning undecided. She stood at the railing with the tea warm in both hands, and she looked at the city, and she thought about 12 pages and 32 pages, and the note slid under her door that she had kept in the front cover of notebook 27 for 7 months. I found your note, she said. In my notebook cover, I've been carrying it. He was very still beside her. I told myself it was because I didn't want to lose it, she said. I'm very good at telling myself things that are only partially true. She paused. I kept it because it was yours, because something that came from you felt like something worth keeping. Silent. She looked at him. She had looked at him hundreds of times. This was different. This was looking at him without the analytical overlay, without the technique breakdown or the development tracking or any of the frameworks she had always put between herself and the raw experience of things. This was just him. Shoto Todoroki, who had grown up in a fire that wasn't his and had spent years learning that he was a person and not a purpose, who had given her a handwritten note because the right words hadn't come, and the gesture was the truest thing available. I want you to know, she said, that the 32 pages are real, not as analysis, as the record of paying attention to someone because watching them matters to you, because they matter. He turned to look at her. She held his gaze without the notebook between them. You matter to me, she said, specifically, not as a classmate, not as a training partner. She took a breath. I am still figuring out the full shape of what I mean by that, and I'm going to be honest about that rather than pretending I have it completely worked out. But I wanted you to know that I know, I see it, I'm not looking away. He said nothing for a long moment. Then he said, that's all I needed. She looked at him. Something in his face had changed, not the enormous structural change, not the family history resolving or the internal walls coming down. Something smaller, something that happened in the specific quiet of someone who has been waiting for one thing and received it. I'm not in a hurry, he said. I'm not going anywhere. He looked back at the city. I just wanted you to know. I know, she said. Good. They drank their tea. The city went gold around them. She found Bakugo in the gym. Of course she found him in the gym. She had known she would find him in the gym. She had known because she had 14 pages of notes about his routine, and she knew his schedule better than he probably realized, and she walked in at 7:30 knowing exactly where he would be. He was at the heavy bag, not with full explosive output, the focused measured work he did when he was thinking about something. She had catalogued the difference. He heard her come in, he stopped. He didn't turn around immediately. She waited. He turned. He looked at her with the expression he had when he had already decided something, and was waiting to see if the situation confirmed it. You figured it out, he said. I figured it out, she said. He nodded. He reached for his water bottle. He took a drink. He was doing the thing he always did when he was managing himself, the deliberate physical action to create space between the feeling and the response. I've been watching you, she said, since we were 4 years old. He went still. Not the way you think, she said. Not I wasn't watching you to catch up or to compete or to understand the gap between us. I watched you because even at 4 years old you were the most alive person I had ever been near. She paused. You have always been completely, utterly, uncompromisingly yourself, even when yourself was someone I needed distance from. Even then, I never stopped thinking that was the most extraordinary quality anyone could have. He said nothing. I spent years thinking I understood you because I had analyzed you, she said. But understanding something from the outside and feeling it from the inside are different things. And she stopped. She found the true sentence. I think you are the person who made me want to be better, not by comparison, because the way you pursue excellence made me believe that pursuing it was worth the cost. The gym was very quiet. You annoying nerd, Bakugo said. His voice was different. Lower, the controlled roughness that came when he was feeling something large and managing it with the only tools he had. I know, she said. You couldn't have figured this out, he said, literally any earlier. I wrote 32 pages about Todoroki's temperature application and still didn't get it until yesterday, she said. My self-awareness is apparently my weakest area. Something moved across his face. It was not a smile exactly. It was the thing Katsuki Bakugo's face did when something was actually funny to him, and he was refusing to give it completely, but couldn't fully contain it either. Weakest area, he said. Working on it, she said. You better, he said. She looked at him, he looked at her. The whole history of them was in the room, the childhood and the cruelty that she had long since stopped holding against him, and the years of parallel growth and the training sessions, and the explosion of genuine respect that had grown from the wreckage of what they used to be. I'm not going to pretend I have everything figured out, she said, but I'm not pretending anymore either, not with you. She met his eyes. You've always known when I was being less than honest. I'm not going to insult you by starting now. He held her gaze for a long time. Good, he said finally. He stopped. He turned back to the heavy bag. Don't make it weird, Deku. Too late, she said. Obviously too late, he said. Go away, I'm training. She went to the door. Katsuki, she said. He stopped. She had never called him that, not in years. Maybe never in this register, not the childhood Kaken, not the deliberate surname, but his actual name, given the specific weight of meaning what she said. He didn't turn around. Thank you, she said, for being exactly what you are, for not being anything else. He said nothing. She left. Behind her in the empty gym, Katsuki Bakugo stood at the heavy bag for a long time without hitting it. Then he hit it very hard. It helped. Somewhat. Shindusi found at lunch. He was sitting alone in the way that new people sat alone, not visibly uncomfortable, managing the performance of being fine with it, the specific posture of someone who was a social person temporarily without a social context, and was handling it with more dignity than most. She sat across from him. He looked at her, he saw her expression. He set down his chopsticks. You talked to the others, he said. This morning, she said. And now you're here. And now I'm here, she said. She looked at him across the table. She thought about 14 pages in 3 weeks and 34 questions, and the specific quality of a person who met your attention with equal attention, who matched the depth of your interest without being overwhelmed by it. Can I ask you something? She said. You can ask me anything, he said, and he meant it. She could tell he meant it because she was very good at telling when people meant what they said. What made you answer all 34 questions? She said. Most people stop at 5. They get tired of being analyzed, or they get uncomfortable, or they start wondering why I'm asking. You answered all of them. You were still going when I ran out of questions. He thought about it. Because you weren't asking to understand me academically, he said. You were asking because you actually wanted to know. The difference is in the listening. You listen like, he paused. Like what you're hearing is the most important thing. Like I'm the most important thing in the moment I'm talking. He shrugged slightly. Most people don't listen like that. It made me want to keep talking. She thought about what Ochaco had said. She thought about the 12 pages. I write about the things I care about, she said. That's what the notebooks are, a record of caring about things. She looked at him. 14 pages in 3 weeks. He smiled. It was a genuine smile, warm and unhurried, the smile of someone who wasn't trying to impress her with it. What does that mean? He said. I think, she said carefully, that it means I found something worth paying attention to very quickly. She paused. I'm still figuring out exactly what that is. I want to be honest about that. I appreciate honest, he said. Good, she said, because I'm apparently very late to my own feelings, and I'm working with a significant backlog, and I can't promise to have everything neatly resolved. I've been here 3 weeks, he said. I'm not expecting neat. She looked at him. What are you expecting? She said. He picked up his chopsticks. He thought about it genuinely. She could see him actually thinking, not reaching for the smooth answer. Honest, he said. Present, the version of you that asks 34 questions because she actually wants to know. He tilted his head. That version is plenty. She felt something settle in her chest. Not resolution, not the clean ending of a problem. Something warmer than that. The specific feeling of a right answer that wasn't an answer to the question she had been asking, an answer to a question she hadn't known she was asking. Okay, she said. Okay, he said. She picked up her chopsticks. They ate lunch. It was, she thought, a very good lunch. Kendo Itsuka she approached on a Wednesday after training. She had thought carefully about this one. She had thought about the 11 minutes and Ochaco's text and her own 12 pages and the specific nature of a first impression that had apparently landed differently than she had intended on both sides. She found Kendo at the equipment storage. They were the only ones there. Midoriya, Kendo said. She had the posture of someone who had heard things through the particular information network that existed in any school full of people with extraordinary perception, and was braced. I wanted to say something, Izumi said, directly, without the training framing. Kendo waited. When we met in first year, Izumi said, at the festival, I thought about that conversation after, more than once, more than I would have expected from a single conversation. She paused. I catalogued it under interesting person to know better, and then I got very busy, and I have the self-awareness of someone who fills notebooks about everyone except herself. Something in Kendo's posture shifted. I'm being more honest than I'm comfortable with on a fairly accelerated timeline, Izumi said, because I've been not honest with myself about a lot of things for a long time, and I'm trying to correct for that. She looked at her directly. I think you're someone I want to know better. I think that's been true for 2 years. I'm sorry it took me this long to say it out loud. Kendo looked at her for a long moment. You analyzed me in 11 minutes, she said. 10, Izumi said honestly. The 11th minute I spent thinking about what I'd analyzed. Something happened in Kendo's expression that was the architecture of a smile. What did you conclude? She said. That your tactical instinct is more sophisticated than your classification suggests, Izumi said, and that you laid with empathy rather than authority, which makes your team performance significantly better than your individual metrics imply. She paused, and that I wanted to ask you about it, at length. Kendo looked at her. That, she said, is the strangest version of that I've ever received. I've been told I'm unusual, Izumi said. You are, Kendo said, but she was smiling now, the real one. Send me the training request, she said, the one you've clearly already drafted. Izumi had already drafted it. 2 weeks, she said. 2 weeks, Kendo confirmed. She walked back to the dorms in the evening light, different than the walk home after the gym, different than the walk after any conversation she could compare this to. She walked slowly, which she almost never did. She usually moved with the efficient speed of someone who had 17 things to do and was already doing 3 of them, and she let the evening happen around her. She thought about the week. The gym floor and the 12 pages and the tea on the roof and the gym and the lunch and the equipment storage and all the conversations she still hadn't had and all the things she still hadn't figured out. She thought about what Ochaco had said, maybe it's not a problem to solve. She thought about Notebook 27. She stopped walking. She was at the point between the training grounds and the main building where the path went through the small garden that someone had planted in first year, and that had been maintained by an unofficial collective ever since. It was quiet here. The light came through the trees at exactly this angle in the evening and turned everything a specific shade of warm. She sat on the bench in the garden. She opened Notebook 27. She turned past the 12 pages, which had grown to 18 over the course of the week, expanded each night as she processed and worked through and arrived at new understanding, to a blank page. She looked at the blank page. She wrote, "This is what I know." She wrote, "I know that I am someone who pays attention completely. I have always been that person. I used to think it was a skill I had developed. I think now it is something more fundamental. It is how I am built, how I experience the world, the primary way I know that anything is real, by paying attention to it, by caring about it enough to write it down." She wrote, "I know that I have been paying attention to certain people with a completeness that exceeds what I told myself it was. Not analysis, not strategic understanding, something with more weight than that, something with more warmth." She wrote, I know that these people have been paying attention to me in return, in their own ways, each one specific to who they are. Shoto with quiet consistency. Katsuki with furious loyalty that he has never once named. Shindu with an openness that costs him nothing because he is genuinely not afraid of being open. Ochaco with the home-like quality that I could not have named until I named it tonight. Kendo with the patience of someone who does not need things quickly and is not lessened by waiting. She wrote, I know that what I feel is real, each of them separately, each of them specifically, not the same feeling in different containers, different feelings, different and real and not reducible to each other. She wrote, I don't know what to call this, I have never had a word for it. I spent 27 notebooks building a vocabulary for the external world, and I have no vocabulary for this. She stopped writing. She looked at the garden. The light was going now, the gold fading to something softer. She could hear distant sounds of the dorm, dinner being made, someone playing music, the ordinary sounds of life being lived by people she had chosen and who had chosen her. She picked up the pen. She wrote, maybe I don't need a word for it. Maybe the word is just this, the specific and irreducible fact of these people in my life and me and theirs, and everything we have already built and everything still ahead. Maybe the word is just us. She looked at that word. She wrote it again larger. Us. She closed the notebook. She sat in the garden until the stars came out, which took a while, and she let the quiet be quiet, and she let herself be where she was without reaching for the next thing or the next analysis or the next page. She just sat. And after a while she heard footsteps on the path, and she looked up and found Ochaco walking toward her with 2 drinks, and the expression of someone who had been watching for the light in the garden window from the dorm, and had timed it correctly. You've been out here for 40 minutes, Ochaco said. I know, Izumi said. Did you figure anything out? She thought about us. A word, she said. Ochaco sat beside her. She handed her the drink. Just one. It's a good word, Izumi said. Ochaco looked at her. She looked at the notebook. She looked at the stars coming out above the garden. Are you okay? She said. Izumi thought about it, honestly. She thought about the week, the gym floor realization and the sleepless night, and the 12 pages that had become 18 and the tea on the roof, and the gym and the lunch and the equipment storage and the garden. She thought about all the conversations still ahead, and all the things still unknown and the specific territory of the next part. The territory she had no map for, no notebook entry on, no previous framework to apply. She thought about what it felt like to be exactly where she was. Yes, she said, and meant it completely. I think I'm the most okay I've ever been. Ochaco smiled. They sat in the garden and drank their drinks, and the stars continued coming out, and the dawn behind them continued being warm and alive. And inside Notebook 27, in the section that had started as things I should have understood sooner, and had become something else entirely over the course of one remarkable week, on the last page she had written, the word us sat in the quiet and held everything it meant. All of it. Every notebook, every page, every person. All the things she was still becoming. The light in the garden was warm. She held it. She didn't write it down. Some things you carry instead. And in the dorm, unaware of the garden and the stars, 3 people were doing the very ordinary things that people do in the evening, eating and reading and preparing for tomorrow, and all 3 of them, separately, in the specific private way of people who have decided something important about themselves, were thinking about the same girl. Not with urgency, not with competition, with the particular quality of thought that settles in when something real has been acknowledged and you no longer have to work to contain it. The thought that just lives in you, easy and present, the way warmth lives in a room that has had a fire in it. She was in the garden. They were in the dorm. And between them, threaded through the ordinary evening of an extraordinary school, something that had been building for 2 years was not resolved, not complete, not tied off, not finished. Just finally, for the first time, fully named. Us. That was enough. For now. For exactly now. The stars came out one by one above the garden, and Izuku Midoriya, who had spent her entire life paying attention to everything, sat and let the night pay attention to her for once. She did not open the notebook. She did not need to. Some things you already know. The rest you live. She looked up at the stars. She smiled. And the story, this part of it, this beginning that had been disguised as a middle, quietly, completely, perfectly became the past. And what came after it was everything. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the full story. Thank you so much for watching Fiction Flux. If you want more stories like this, drop a comment and let us know. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with every anime fan you know. We will see you in the next one.